right, I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I'd like to have Ms. Van Even lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is consideration of the agenda. Is there anything that needs to be moved or altered about our proposed agenda tonight? Seeing nothing, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which contains routine matters that typically do not require board discussion. Individual board members may remove an item from the consent agenda for discussion or separate action. Tonight's consent agenda items are as follows. Approval of the minutes from our last regular meeting held September 12th, 2022. Approval of various personnel recommendations, accepting donations totaling $1,825.75. Approval of temporary wage differentials and increases for paraprofessionals who substitute as licensed teachers during the 22-23 school year. And finally, approval of the bill vouchers, EP register, EFT vouchers, and Capital One entries that are listed in the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those approve by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now move on to the superintendent's report on excellence. Dr. Flesher, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm very excited to celebrate the excellence in academics this evening. A number of announcements. The names of 4 class of 2023 National Merit semifinalists were released just after our last school board meeting. Congratulations to Zara Coakley, Eli Hamer, Rylan Hunt, and Michael Rasher. We will have a number of National Merit Commended Scholars that will be named later this month. And we look forward to honoring these students' achievement before the November board meeting. Also this month, just this last week, we had some fantastic news. We learned that junior Emily Middleton earned a perfect score on the Advanced Placement U.S. History exam she took at the end of her sophomore year. The college board who administers the AP exam sent a letter to Emily with this recognition this last week. And so I quote, "As you know, advanced placement exams are scored on a 1 to 5 scale. You not only received a top score of 5, but you were only one of 9 students from around the world to earn every point possible on this challenging college level examination." So congratulations, Emily. We are thrilled for her, and we also want to take time to congratulate her AP US History instructor, Mr. Dennis Lynn, for outstanding work in the classroom. For continuous improvement, it's been a very positive week this week with our staff development day on Monday the 26th. All buildings were focused on student data and goals that were written on the continuous improvement data retreat day on the 21st. Dr. Rulin will take some time with Ms. Randall tonight to discuss this. But we thank our teachers for working so very hard on student achievement. Just wanted to mention we had Foundation Coffee and Conversations this week. Last week they hosted their annual coffee and conversation gathering in the Spartan Plaza. We had a quick recap on the start of school and the technology levy renewal. Special thanks to Orono teachers Ryan Gallagher, Katie Stanley, and Aaron Head for sharing the impact of their summer professional development programs. As teacher leaders, these 3 returned to campus to share and help implement best practices in a number of academic areas. We're also grateful to the anonymous donor who provided the $1 million to support staff professional development. Following a request for a proposal process this last spring, we were able to review and fund over 20 requests by our amazing teachers and principals at Orono. And finally, it's homecoming. It's homecoming week in Orono. Lots going on. We're very excited to be planning activities, including the parade on Friday. We have a pep fest, a football game, and a dance that bring the entire community together. The parade is on Friday at 1:15 with the varsity football game at 7 p.m. against the St. Louis Park Cardinals. Additional details on all events for homecoming for the community are on the website at oronoschools.org/homecoming. Please check it out. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you very much. And I'm hopeful that we can hear from some of the teachers that had experiences over the summer. We heard some at a coffee that the foundation hosted last week, and it was very impressive.
We've already planned it for October.
All right, great. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to board members' questions and comments, an opportunity for board members to update each other on committee happenings and other items of mutual interest. We'll start with Ms. Wallander tonight and work our way this way.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the 14th of this month, I was able to attend the Orono Early Learning Parent Group at the Discovery Center. They are continuing to rebuild and grow their numbers, which is so fantastic to see. And they are going to be hosting their very first Super Saturday on the 15th of October. And for those of you who don't know what a Super Saturday is, that is when they open the doors of the Discovery Center. They have crafts and activities. Everyone in the community is welcome to come and connect. The kids love showing their classrooms to their parents. So this is something that we have not had in a long time. It's going to feel very nice to have that back. I was also able to attend the kickoff PTO community meeting on the 16th right here in this room, and that was also fantastic to see so many parents there. For people who aren't aware, the PTO is our parent-teacher organization that serves K through 5. They actually have a very robust budget. They have about $140,000 that they distribute every year, much of that going directly to teachers in classroom grants, but also in teacher appreciation. And also, long awaited, they are getting parents back to school. There are many, many opportunities for volunteering right now. They're doing lunchroom buddies in the cafeteria. Recess Rockstars is back, and you may not remember what that is, but that's the playground recognition program, where it's not about reprimanding or disciplining, it's about watching kids who are having really good behavior and rewarding that. And it's contagious, and it's really fun to watch those kids. We also have the Readathon coming up, which is their largest fundraiser of the year. They're going to need some help assembling prizes as an incentive to kids. And the book fair is coming at the beginning of November, which is the largest graphic book fair in the nation. There'll be plenty of volunteer opportunities there as well. That concludes my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bash.
I have no meetings to report on, but just to help Ally a little bit, and to everybody that the Orono boys soccer team continues to be the number one ranked Class 2A boys soccer team in the state. And I believe they are still undefeated.
Yes, they are 10-0.
So just as a reminder, we have a pretty good soccer team going on here right now, boys
And
soccer team.
we're fortunate that Ally is here tonight, actually, because there was a soccer game planned for this evening that got postponed because the other team double or triple booked, so.
They're double booked. So yeah, if you want to support them, 4 o'clock on Friday, they'll be playing home before the homecoming game.
Perfect.
They
Thank
would
you.
love to have the support.
That's all.
All right, thank you. Ms. Vandeman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On September 20th, I was asked by the League of Women Voters to help out at the National Voter Registration Day that happened during the 3 lunch hours in the high school, and it was fabulous. And it was, interestingly, didn't have any idea that we were also going to be announcing the homecoming court at the same time. So through every lunch hour, we had the band come in. And it was wonderful. And so talk about getting the kids excited about voting. It's like, yes. And I did not share with anybody my story that exists at our household. But if you do not have an I voted sticker on, you don't get dinner at our house. So voting is important. I don't care who you voted for. You need to vote. So it was great. This was led this year by 2 student volunteers. It was so much better. They had trained these student volunteers. They started in the spring, working with Brooklyn, Elson Peter, and Maria Wilson, and teaching them how to go out and talk to their fellow students about signing up to register to vote. And so we ended up so anybody who was 18, they handed out how to vote, a little thing that they could scan in their iPhone. And so we had over 50 kids who registered to vote. So that's pretty cool. And then we handed out suckers and said to those who hadn't voted yet or who weren't 18 yet, be sure to vote when you can. So that was great. And then I was so glad to also attend the foundation breakfast in the plaza to hear from the 3 teachers. It was awesome. It was so inspiring. We are so lucky to have such a great staff who have so many ideas and everything else, and how fabulous that there were 21 requests for proposal and you granted 21 grants. Thank you very much for doing that. That's the end of my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And on the young women that are doing the register of vote, there was a really nice article in the local paper this last week about that. So, excellent. Ms. Borchers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I was going to talk about the OFE breakfast, or pardon me, coffee, but you all have summed it up very nicely. If you ever have a chance to go to one of those someday, it's really a great way to feel very inspired by the innovation that the teachers bring to the classroom every day. I also have been Dr. Flesher and I went to the Maple Plain City Council last night and presented about the tech levy, purely informational. We showed the video. They did not have any questions. I understand that that's pretty much how all the city ones are going so far. But if there are questions, please reach out to us. On September 20th, I was double booked, so I was able to go to the first portion of the SPA meeting, which is the Spartan Parent Association. That's for the senior high, the high school. And then I was able to catch the tail end of the Orono Foundation board meeting. Both organizations are doing well, lots of volunteers, healthy. And I think that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Ms. Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just share that last Tuesday I presented about the tech levy, again, just information only, to the Independence City Council and Mayor Johnson. So that was a pleasure to do that. And that concludes my report.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is that Dr. Flesher and I went to the Orono City Council meeting last night, and fortunately we were the first item on the agenda, so we could do our informational video and then leave. So there were a lot of folks at the meeting, and but a good response and real positive feedback from the mayor and council members.
Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
forgot something.
Go ahead.
So and Sarah, I'm surprised you missed this one, but the foundation this Sunday is honoring the distinguished alumni Sunday morning from 9 to 11. And the distinguished alumni, the winner of the distinguished alumni is Jim Franklin, class of 1994. And then the promising recipients are Grace Burbig, class of 20, and Jesus Martinez, class of 11.
Right during the Vikings game, I might add, but hey, priorities. Any other questions for board members? If not, we'll move on to item 7, which is, or item 8, which is old business. First item of which is action on the superintendent goals that were presented at our last meeting. Any questions regarding those goals? Presumably, if you had questions, I know a few of us did, had an opportunity to chat with Dr. Flesher on those. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve the goals for the year.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion?
Just as Martha mentioned last time, thank you for the robust goals. They are worthy. They are, as in the college parlance, some of them are stretch. But thank you for the detail, and we are here to support those endeavors because they benefit everybody.
Absolutely, well said. Any further comments? If not, I'd call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And again, our appreciation for your thoughtful approach to setting some aggressive goals for this year. So it's great. Next, we'll move on to policy review. Again, it's an action item of several policies that we reviewed at our last meeting in our first reading. So any questions that people had, presumably they brought them up between the first reading and now. Any questions at this point, or if not, I'd entertain a motion to approve policy 505, 516, 517, 518, 519, and 520 that appear in our materials.
I move to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right. Actually, two motions, but
They were really good policies.
yeah. Any comments on them or questions, discussion? And we got a thorough description of them at our last meeting. So with that, I would call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And again, a big thank you to the policy committee. We do this every time you bring new policies, but you've been bringing new policies at virtually every meeting. So again, thanks for all the time that goes into there and for your thoughtful changes to those policies. They're definitely not cookie cutter, and they are appropriate for our district. Any other old business to come before the meeting? If not, we'll move on to new business, Orono Activity Center update. Dr. Flesher, would you like to introduce our guests?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm very pleased to invite Ms. Tiffany Clifton to the board table. She is the Director of Orono Community Education, and she is here to discuss the spring and summer work of study. Regarding the Orono Activity Center, Ms. Clifton is taking over leadership and is going to share her study process and the beginning next steps as we plan recovery from the pandemic, and I turn it over to Ms. Clifton.
Before you get started, I'd like to point out that our monitor that we normally see in front of us here is not on. So if we could, I mean, we can look over to the side and look over our shoulder, but it would be great if we could get that on. All right, go ahead and welcome Tiffany.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. I'm very There we go. All right, can everyone hear me now? There we go. Sorry about that. So just a little review and some highlights in history. So the Orono Activity Center opened in February of 2019. We had many founding members initially, and many of them are still current members, which but we are rebounding very well. We're building some very, very strong relationships, especially with the pickleball excitement in our community, and so we're happy that we've been able to work with some local pickleball enthusiasts and provide more access. In addition, we've added additional programming such as Spartan Strong, and as Dr. Flesher mentioned, we are under new leadership and excited with the combining with community education. So as we look at our study we did over the summer with this transition, and as lifelong learners in community education, we wanted to spend the time and make sure that we were really understanding the needs of the community and doing a community needs assessment. So we did a variety of things. We spent a lot of time learning. We connected with community members and current Activity Center members, as well as past Activity Center members through a survey, which I'll talk about in a moment. We connected with community leaders as well as other community members. We talked with many staff. We did some focus groups. We connected with other districts and did an external scan, and we attended the first ever statewide conference for the Minnesota Recreation, Aquatics, and Community Center. And that was done through the Minnesota Community Education Association. So very timely. It was in August, so we were very excited. We had many staff attend and gather some information of what is working well in other communities that run and have activity centers as a part of their district around the state, as well as some cities that were there too. So we had to have learning from multiple entities, which was really wonderful. So the survey that I mentioned, we did a survey this summer, and we were very excited to have well over 400 respondents. Of that, 90% were current members and 50% of that were founding members initially.
You can see here we had high ratings. The ratings were on a scale of 1 to 5. And so with cleanliness at 92.5%, that was on those that rated 4 or 5. Similar to overall experience, coming at 87. Equipment and amenities at 83, and then customer service at 82. So we're very happy to see some of those high ratings from the community. We noticed some trends. There was a lot of open-ended questions, so a lot of really great information to sort through and understand how we can best serve our community. And one thing that was very apparent is people very much enjoy the proximity and the location and having it be right here in the community. They love the walking track and the cleanliness of it. Areas to improve, we're definitely expanding some hours, which you'll hear more about coming up, and then having additional programming such as like personal training and some different things that we're looking into as well. So with the merge of having community education and Orono Activity Center together, we did have a lot of transition this summer. We spent a lot of time making sure that we were having the right moves with staffing changes, office moves, and vision and planning goal setting. We spent time evaluating roles and responsibilities and making sure that aligned with our goals and our visions. We plotted information into an impact effort matrix. We had a lot of team retreat time to really make sure that we are understanding and really aligning our focus and our priorities and roles to a bigger goal of community engagement and that connection for our community. We were excited to kind of have a community event last spring as an example of ways that we can utilize this beautiful space to engage everyone in the community with our wellness expo that we had. And really we see a great natural connection point with our programs such as fitness and aquatics and adult enrichment, which already reside within community education. So we do have a staffing update. You'll see some new faces when you are in the Orono Activity Center office. Deb Slomkowski is our operations manager who is officing out of there. Max Olson, who will remain officing there as our Orono Activity Center supervisor. Tara St. Martin is our aquatics and adult enrichment coordinator who will be officing there part-time between the pool. Kim King is our youth sports and summer coordinator, and Olivia Gephardt is our marketing and communications coordinator.
Would you mind if Deb waved from the crowd?
Deb is here with us tonight. Thank you, Deb, for joining. And she's done an amazing job, so we're very excited to have her. And having Olivia with that marketing and communication, she's been supporting community ed extremely well, and so being able to expand her talents in the area of the Activity Center will be a great value add there as well. And then, of course, you'll continue to see Lynn's smiling face behind the front desk, which was actually brought up multiple times in the survey. So we're happy to have her. Overall, our goals for the Activity Center and Community Ed really boil down to community engagement opportunities. We want to expand on those and grow opportunities for the community to feel like a central hub to connect and be with one another. We want to have excellent and consistent customer service and grow programming and membership. So really building a community within the Orono Activity Center is the ultimate goal. And then coming soon, so we do have an open house coming on October 13th from 5 to 7. We hope to see you all there. Very excited there. You will hear more about our expanded hours, which will be on weekends and holidays. I'm not going to share too much more right now. And then in addition, we are looking into, and like I said, we had a lot of really great information, but some of the things that we are heavily looking into that you will be seeing more information coming soon is expanded events of community connection, tournaments such as pickleball and basketball, coffee connection, bringing coffee back for people to congregate after a workout or walking on the track, making membership renewal easier. We heard that as a comment as well of kind of forgetting about my membership and wanting to make that easier for our members, more lap swim hours, as well as other new programming for senior connections, such as tech buddies, personal training, group fitness, looking at weight room access, and then many more opportunities. So just a reminder, we're only a couple months in, and so this is just the beginning of a lot of very exciting things coming our way, and we look forward to supporting your wellness just up the road.
Could you take a minute to describe the Tech Buddy program?
Absolutely. So I think I was just here 2 weeks ago talking about summer. So we piloted this past summer. We piloted with Haven Homes to do a Tech Buddy program where we had some high school students go into Haven Homes and work with residents there on any technology needs. So residents were able to bring questions on, about their phone or how to access. How do I video call with my grandkids? Or I don't understand what spam, why this keeps going to spam or different things like that. We also had a one high schooler do a presentation on technology and safety, and so we have many, many ideas of where and how to grow this, but we wanted to not only continue partnerships in that area, but bring that to the activity center so anyone can kind of come in and we can have this opportunity for those in the community to understand technology and learn about how it is as it's ever changing. I feel even in my age, I still am behind the times in technology, so might attend one or two. So we're very excited about that opportunity as we engage with our high school students and the community.
And we talked about this, but the flip side of that is that that's a great opportunity for the high school students to really understand what it is to talk about something they understand and teach somebody something.
Exactly.
Somebody who might come in with a lot of barriers to being able to figure it out. And so that is a very valuable skill.
Absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that. When we were doing some research to understand, how we wanted to develop this program and talking to other districts that have done something similar, the relationship component was a huge value add. That was, maybe not the ultimate goal, but just not only from the resident to the high schooler, but the high schooler to the resident and building that connection and learning from one another. So there's some really powerful and amazing stories from that. So we look forward to seeing where this can go.
Does Tech Buddy continue during this academic year too, or was it just in the summer?
So we piloted it in the summer, and the goal is to have that continue through this year and bring it to the activity center. So those are all the details that we're still kind of working on finalizing, but that is
Be sort of like a tech help desk
Yeah,
for the community, sort
Yeah.
of the vision.
it was so cool to hear about it through Orono Healthy Youth and everything else, and I think
Yeah.
I'm so glad you took it so far. Thank you.
absolutely.
Just wanted to mention too, Tiffany's being very humble. She makes it sound really easy, but this was an incredible amount of work and study. And on top of that, community education has absorbed the activity center with reduction in staff at the same time. So being more efficient and delivering on greater hours and expanding programming all at the same time. So huge thanks to Tiffany and Deb and the whole team.
Wonderful, thank you. I had an opportunity to be in the activity center during some of the big events that were there, some basketball tournaments and track meets. And what a wonderful place to host each. After years of hosting basketball tournaments where we had to rent out other facilities or certainly go to different buildings within the district, it is just wonderful to have it all under one roof. And the track meet was, the one track meet I saw was really exciting as well. It really is a great facility for that. Just curious, how, I assume we make decent money when we, rent it out for a track meet and I can't imagine that other schools wouldn't want to rent it out, even if Orono is not involved in the track meet. So maybe talk a little bit about that and what kind of revenue streams we might receive from those tournaments and track meets.
Yeah, absolutely. That is some of the learning that we are still doing. So it definitely is a great avenue to get in some more revenue. It varies based on, I think even dance, sometimes having dance competitions, which can be huge and all of that. So that was one really exciting finding when we attended the conference to hear what other districts are doing that have the space. And I will say it was fun to hear that we are, there's a little bit of envy for how beautiful this space is from other communities and wanting to kind of do different tours. And so that is still on our agenda and working through many of these items over these last few months, but having the team connect with and doing other walkthroughs of other sites and connecting with other areas. Pickleball, I think, is the first one, and we've heard of a variety of revenue coming in dependent on how it's set up. So it can start modest and then go big. And it sounds like there's a lot of different complications, so I don't know the exact number of what we would see here. But once we have a better idea, we definitely will report back, and it definitely has a lot of potential. So
And, I was just standing there as an observer at the track meet, and people from other towns were commenting on what a wonderful facility it was, and oh man, they're so lucky to have this here in Orono. It was kind of fun to kind of eavesdrop on their positive comments. So it is a beautiful facility, and thank you for your efforts in managing it. I know that wasn't on your original job description, so thank you for picking it up.
absolutely, we're excited to take it.
Tiffany, I know last spring there were some issues with scheduling conflicts with middle school and some groups that wanted to use it. Have we ironed some of that out to make it a little easier for groups to be able to use the activity center?
Absolutely. So Deb has done an amazing job and is continuing to do an amazing job really working through our systems. We actually are reviewing the systems that we have in place and making sure that those are communicating with each other, which sounds like that was part of the issue with multiple systems talking with one another. So we are working out all of those issues and processes and putting better processes in place. So everyone should be seeing scheduling a facility as being a much more smooth process moving forward as well.
So I am all in favor of expanded hours. I think that's fantastic, but I know we are having some staffing issues. Are you running into that, or are we able to find people who can work those extended hours?
So at this point, that was the first question before we even explored it. It was by far the most mentioned item on all of the surveys. And Max, who is the supervisor, feels very confident. He's actually doing very well with staff retention. So many of our Orono Spartans love to be there and work there. And so we are not worrying about staff in that area. I keep telling them, do they want to come work Spartan Kids, or we have other areas that we need to pull them into. So we might get creative with some of that too, now that we have this. So there's a lot of possibilities, but no, we don't foresee that being an issue.
That's fantastic.
I need to compliment you on the staffing, because I have been going probably 4 times a week to work out, and it's just been awesome. These young people behind the desk are so welcoming to me, and here I am. I come in sometimes having come from a meeting, and I'm going to go work out, and they don't look at me and go like, oh my gosh, what are you doing with this sports coat on? You know, and it's just wonderful. They're so nice. Thank you. You have a good group of staff there. They are just wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a great team, and that is one thing that we, want to make sure is that regardless of the time of day, regardless of when you come in or who is behind the desk or what program that you're in, that you're getting that excellent customer service and that consistent customer service and feeling welcomed at all times. So that is definitely a priority for us. So thank you.
And that's a reflection on our district too, so thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Any other questions,
And I
comments?
just had a quick one. When you're talking about surveying the community and the members, is there an aspect where we look at student use and student feedback or input? Just because I know there's students there a lot and they use it a lot, and just curious if that's part of what we're looking at.
Absolutely. So any members that, we did have many that were in the 14 to 21 range respond. And surveying is heavily on the goals of all of my team right now for all of our programs to ensure it's a very critical part of that community needs assessment. So making sure that we're thinking of who are our users, whether they be families, parents, students, who are we connecting with, community members, and making sure that we're getting their feedback to ensure that we're meeting the needs of the community.
I know initially there was, we ordered turf that was able to be installed. It turned out to not be exactly what we were hoping it would be, and so ended up sending that back and getting refunded for it. Any plans to bring back turf? Because I know it's very popular in the winter to have a turf field inside to be able to practice.
Yeah, I think, the beauty is we have a very large space and multiple courts, and it gives a lot of opportunity. And so not only with turf, but different types of flooring that maybe is more slick. We're looking into a variety of options to see, what best fits the needs, and then obviously the financial component to see what we can afford when. But definitely things that we have on the horizon of looking into.
In the survey, the most frequently requested, there were lots of requests for different kinds of
floor
Yeah,
surfaces.
but it
yeah.
was basketball courts, so.
Yeah.
Wood floor.
So at the conference, there was vendors there, and there's different options, so different things to be scoping out and looking into and seeing what is the best fit for our center and our community.
Well, and one resource you could consider there, I know that the sales tax under which the Twin Stadium was built has funding for playgrounds and sports facilities. And I believe we got a grant from that for the hockey rink. And I believe we got one for the activity center when it was brand new. So there's funds available, and so that's an avenue if you're looking for some funds to beef up our offerings there.
Thank you, I appreciate that. You know I love a good grant.
All right, any other questions, comments? Otherwise, thank you very much, and really appreciate the work you're doing with that. All right, preliminary levy certification. Fun stuff that Mr. Westrom is going to brief us on, I believe.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Fletcher, and members of the community as well. Boy, we've only been in session for a couple of weeks for the 22-23 school year, and now we're planning the 23-24 school year. And of course, a portion of that has to do with our local property tax levies. So I'm going to go through a quick little slide. You've been through this many times before, but just want to talk a little bit about the process and why we're starting this process at this point. So the reason why we're starting our property tax levy for the 23-24 school year to fund a portion, not all, but just a small portion, is due to the truth in taxation timeline. So you can see that in September, the district will certify a preliminary levy, and then the county will take those preliminary levies and actually process parcel-specific notifications that go out to the entire community. So cities, counties, school districts, other taxing districts are all doing this at this time. And then this is simply just to be transparent with our communities on the property taxes that are being proposed to levy. But it doesn't mean that we're actually certifying the levy or planning to levy this amount. So basically, it won't happen until December 12th. At that point, the board will be asked to certify a final levy, and then that will actually be levied and fund a portion of the 23-24 school year. So just want to talk real quick. Cities, counties, and other taxing jurisdictions typically have a calendar year going from January through December, and that's when we collect our taxes. However, school districts run from July through June, so our levy doesn't run and coincide with our budget. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, but that's one of the reasons why, even though we're currently in the 22-23 operational school year, and with the current budget, we're actually already planning the 23-24 school year. And of course, we're just wrapping up the 21-22 school year. So quite honestly, the business office is in 3 years, and I know the finance committee of the board is, and now I'm bringing the entire board into that realm. What affects the levy? The main things that affect the levy are the property values throughout the district. And of course, our enrollment has an impact on that, because much of our revenue that is driven through property taxes is driven by enrollment. So a couple things to keep in mind. We have one thing called net tax capacity, and that's where we convert, or I should say Hennepin County converts the market value into a tax capacity to determine how to spread the taxes throughout the community. School districts are unique because we have operating referendums. That's what we're used to hearing about, where we lower class size and we ask to enhance programs. So the operating referendum is primarily spread on referendum market value, and then all the other taxes are spread either on tax capacity or a adjusted net tax capacity, which is probably beyond the scope of this conversation, but the finance committee of the board will get into more detail on that.
Jim, the referendum market value really is relevant in outstate Minnesota, right? I mean,
Yes.
that's the property owners in Brainerd saying, we're not gonna pay for Brainerd schools because we just have a cabin here, and it's certain farmers saying there's a limit to how much we're gonna pay.
Yes, that
In
was,
rural districts, right?
there were some legislative tools that were introduced so that, the referendum market value really reflects, people who are residing within a community and being served by that community. So I think, seasonal recreational is now a statewide property tax instead of, primarily local at that point. So nice point, Mike. And then, just a couple other items I want to talk about is school boards really, don't have a lot of discretion. Most of the funding through the local property tax is either voter approved or it's state determined. And, the two voter approved items that we currently have outstanding in the district are the debt for some building projects that we've incurred over the last several years. The voters approve those, and we have the principal and interest payments that we levy on an annual basis, so it's similar to a mortgage. And then we also have the technology levy. And then, of course, I talked a little bit about the operating referendum that was approved by voters in 2016. And that's one of the revenue sources that allows Orono to be above an adequate education. And one other thing to note is the formulas are generated not by me, but by the Department of Education through an old mainframe. Although they say it's not an old mainframe, but if I show you the report here, it's 39 pages, and it certainly looks the same as it did back in the 90s. So, but anyway, lots of data to go through, and we're always looking at 3 years when we're doing our property tax levy 2. We're projecting what's going to happen in 23, 24. We're adjusting because we have better numbers for 22, 23, and then we're doing a final makeup for 21, 22. According to state law, we can't levy a penny more or a penny less than we're entitled to. And so it almost takes almost a whole year just to determine on a statewide basis that no one district or no two districts counted the same student. And so that's one of the reasons why we report all of our data, all our student data to the state. We report all our teacher data to the state, and we report all of our financial data to the state too. So just a couple quick highlights. In this year's levy, which you received a one-page document, and you probably saw 30 to 40 lines on that. The biggest changes that I wanted to point out is the voter-approved operating levy increased, and it primarily increased due to the fact that we have better inflationary numbers. You're probably aware that you heard that the CPI increased over the last year. So that CPI increase actually affected the current year that we're in, the 22-23 school year, and it will actually carry forward to the 23-24 school year. So we kind of got hit with a double adjustment there, but we'll talk more about that in December when we decide what to actually approve. And then the voter-approved technology levy is not included in this preliminary property tax levy. And I think we've made it very clear, both to the board and to the entire community, that that authorization is set to expire and will no longer be available as an option to fund about $1.2 million worth of expenses in the 23-24 school year. So this is the first time that this board probably has seen this phenomena in 20 years, where you actually will see a referendum component not showing up. But that can be added depending upon what the voters decide on November 8th. And then our state-determined general fund levies decreased by about $178,000, and our community service fund levy is mainly based on our population and some reimbursements that Tiffany, who presented earlier here, is entitled to for providing 0 to 5-year-old programming, summer programming, and adult enrichment programming. So, and then finally we have our OPEB debt service levy. So our total levy is decreasing about $376,000, or almost a 2% decrease. But at this point, I'm going to take a moment to thank Ms. Van de Ven. She noted that the current levy also includes a lease payment or a principal and interest payment that was already paid. So I think it's going to be closer to a $500,000 decrease. And once again, I really have to thank the Finance and Facility Committee of the board. They really pay close attention. We go through this for almost an hour, going through all the formulas, just to make sure that we're being really prudent stewards with the public's dollars. So if we look, this is just a quick comparison. These numbers are going to change between now and December. They will not go up unless voters approve the technology levy. But we do have some placeholders in there and some estimates in the preliminary 2023 levy that we need the board to at least place the placeholder by September 30th. And then as we further refine our plan, those numbers can decline, and I anticipate that they will. So last year we levied 19.9, and this year we're levying 19.5, which is just almost a $400,000 decrease. But I believe that 400,000 is actually going to be closer to a $550,000 decrease. And then with some of the placeholders, we do have the ability to spread some things over multiple years. You're probably aware that long-term facility maintenance, we do have a placeholder in that levy component. That requires state approval, but it also requires the board to approve a plan by December if we decide to levy that. So we're leaving as much flexibility for the board. I think it's always important to kind of see what neighboring districts' property tax impact is on a, specimen home. So we asked Elders to do this. This is the amount that they used last year. They looked at a $400,000 market value home, and they just kind of compared what a $400,000 home in the Orono School District compared to neighboring districts would pay. And you can see we're right near the bottom. And I think part of that is primarily due to the fact that we aren't asking for an incredible amount in the technology levy. We're asking for an adequate amount to currently maintain what we have. And you're probably aware that Hopkins has almost like 3 or 4 times the amount of technology levy that their voters have approved. So I think once again, this demonstrates that the board and the past, you've been very prudent in your ask of the community. So, as I mentioned before, the numbers are going to change. So we have the ability, instead of asking for you to approve a dollar amount, we're going to ask you to approve the maximum allowable by state law. And then we're going to continue as a finance committee to sharpen our pencils and look for ways to create further efficiencies. And then it's going to be also dependent on the outcome of the November 8th election, what the recommendation will be in December. So, and then in December, we'll do a truth and taxation hearing. And at that point, the board will have the ability to determine what amount they want to levy in the end. So with that, the action or the agenda item is before you, and I would let you call for.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move that we certify the maximum payable levy for 2022 payable in 2023.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion?
I would like to just make a comment that a soundbite would be that we have done the maximum amount, and that is not accurate. There is context to what we are approving, and I would encourage anybody who wanted to see those final numbers to please come back in December, because that is not what we're going to do.
Yeah, typically, I would just point out that typically we do approve the maximum at this point in the year because we cannot go up, we can only go down. So typically, that's what the board does at this first action.
And Jim, my experience, while you want to suggest that the finance committee is going to sharpen our pencils, my observation is that usually what happens, it's the state changing these formulas that drive the changes between now and December. Not a lot of work on, I mean, that's where the changes happen, not us, because every one of these, except for 1 or 2 placeholders, are all state-derived formulas. So there really isn't a lot that we have anything to do with. Is that correct?
That is correct. I guess when I was talking about sharpening the pencils, you probably recall that you did ask us to engage in a facility study. So we do have just a little bit of flexibility.
Yeah, I mean, there's an important, I mean, in the long-term facilities number, that's based on what WOLD comes back with, that can't go any higher, but could go down dramatically, because we may decide that that's something that we don't want. It's going to happen someday, but it may not happen next year, and may not be the best time to have it happen next year.
Or to that extent.
Or to that extent. So we're going to have that opportunity to make that go down, but it's until we get that long-term study done that we're not gonna know what that is. But otherwise, I mean, it's not, the changing in all these formulas is really state-driven.
It
not-
really is. Yes, I
not
would
stuff
agree with
that we're
that,
doing.
and it's rare that I would indicate that a school board has the ability to sharpen their pencils. Because actually, and board members here may realize this, is if you do reduce the levy, there's a corresponding reduction in state revenue that flows to the district. So it almost is counterintuitive. Basically, if you don't levy what the state indicates you should levy, they'll reduce the state aid that comes to the district.
Just wanted to mention as a reminder, after facilities and finance, meet it's in detail on the long-term maintenance needs, we will be bringing that information to the entire board at a workshop, hoping in November, but prior to December.
Look forward to that.
Did we address your, I mean, I get why you're saying that. Does that address what you were, the point you're trying to make?
I think so. Thank you very much.
The likelihood it will not be the maximum when when the dust settles is very high, based on what the state changes, what other changes happen. This just allows for, really, it's the maximum flexibility so that we can respond to district needs, especially given the long-term facility maintenance survey. It gives us that, the very narrow flexibility that we actually can have until we have to settle everything.
Any further discussion?
Let me just make one additional comment. So this information is available on the district's website. We won't have the final numbers until December, but if you look at past history, you'll notice that even last year, I think the board came back and made a recommendation to go under the maximum. And I think that was a wise decision for taxpayers.
Any further discussion? Otherwise, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion before you, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And thank you very much, Mr. Westrom, for all the work that goes into this. Any other new business to come before the meeting? If not, I would like to point out that our next regular meeting will be held Monday, October 10th, 2022, back here, 7 p.m., District Office Assembly Room. We will have a listening session for those that sign up, beginning at 6:30. And we do have a workshop coming up here, so I'd encourage you all to stay. The workshop is, the purpose of the workshop is to report on continuous improvement, and I think you'll be as interested as we are in hearing an update on that front. So with that, we've completed the business portion of tonight's meeting, and we'll be moving to a workshop session.
Do we have to do anything different because after the workshop, we have the,
Yeah.
Yes.
No, we got legal advice on this, and we don't, we'll move to a closed session at the end of the workshop.
that's, okay, we don't have to temporarily.
We don't have to adjourn or anything like that in the meantime, so we will